Have you ever heard the phrase hitting the wall? Or maybe you've heard someone say, I've hit the wall. If you have heard that phrase, usually in the context it's used, you understand what it means. It usually comes from the groups of runners. Runners will often say they've hit the wall, usually while they're on their race or doing their long distance marathon or whatever it is they're doing. They will hit it. They will sometimes hit at a crucial time this invisible wall where their body just does not want to do it anymore. That they have run out of steam and they want to stop. And most of the time, the really good runners have figured out ways to play head games with themselves to get them through hitting the wall, where they'll be able to just push forward and achieve whatever goal it is they want. Maybe they're trying to finish their first marathon and they're trying to just do it on a treadmill or whatever, or with free running or whatever it is they're doing. And I think it's a good way to talk about this place you can hit when you're doing these diets, these really life-changing transformative diets that are not supposed to just be how people usually talk about diets. Because when people talk about diets, here's what ends up happening. They almost always, and without fail, say, hey, my whole point of doing carnivore is to lose the excess body fat and get to a place where I can go back to a smarter version of the standard American diet. And if you ever hear anybody say something like that, you probably want, at least part of you wants to say that's not a really good idea, because these are not diets in the I'm going on a diet sense. These are life-changing things. These are meant to be either forever kind of things or something that you do where you get to a place where the concept of a cheat meal or whatever isn't something that even makes any sense. This is supposed to be life-changing, as in the classic definition of a diet, as in a description of how a human being eats, as opposed to as a temporary restriction on how you eat for a purpose of some kind. And it's natural that when you do this, you will hit the wall, possibly early on. So it's now late March. You might be seeing this in April, depending when you watch this. You might be hitting the wall if you started in January, like many people do when they start quote unquote diets, at the new year for a New Year's resolution. You hit a place where you're not getting the results you wanted. Maybe you saw everybody saying, oh, all the weight melts off when you do carnivore or keto or whatever. And you, between that, seeing people say that and maybe following some questionable advice, you've not had that happen. Or maybe you've had even something worse happen. You've put on body fat, and maybe you started out with enough extra body fat that your doctor had that conversation with you saying you need to take care of this, otherwise you won't be around much longer. And so you start asking people in carnivore keto spaces for advice, and you keep getting the insipid sort of, well, you're healing, just let it happen kind of advice, which is really dumb because, at least in your situation, you don't have the time and the ability to just let it happen. And so you hit the wall mentally. You're beginning to think, what's the point? Maybe you should just go back to calorie counting, even though calorie counting doesn't really work either. Maybe you've hit the wall because there's something going on just with your emotions, or you're having external stressors happen, and you find yourself falling off the wagon over and over again. And you get back up, and you fall down again, and you notice that every time you do, you're a little heavier than you were before, and your body doesn't want to lose the body fat. So you've hit the wall. Or maybe you're just tired of it. Maybe you're tired of ribeyes. It does happen. This is one of the reasons I telling people to eat only ribeyes, aside from the silly cost of it. For most people, vast majority of people can't afford to eat $30 worth of steak a day. And that's in the United States. Make that much higher overseas. People do get tired of it. So you hit the wall. Or maybe just the mechanical nature of all of this gets tiresome for you. So you hit the wall. You get tired. You don't want to do it anymore. So what do? There are a few things you can do. I will not tell you to loosen up on this as a way to overcome hitting the wall, because really what that's likely to make it happen is you're going to go from hitting the wall and trying to climb over that wall to you're just going to lean on the wall. You're going to just stop. You're eventually going to lean into the sort of mental space that you're in, and that's not usually a good thing for success. But there are some tricks you can have. If you're if you're having trouble because you were following a lot of this advice from people that were telling you, oh, it's, eat your beef, butter, bacon, eggs, cheese, whatever, and you're not losing the body weight you were told you would lose. And it's not, you're not packing on muscle at the gym. You can tell the way your clothes are fitting that your clothes are changing how they fit and not in a good way. Then there are a few things you can do. And the first you should do is eliminate the dairy. Get it down to maybe even get rid of the butter. I have encountered people in the carnivore space who can't eat butter. If they do, it goes badly for them. You should possibly increase your sodium. Basic advice, increase the amount of water you drink. Get some electrolytes, good electrolytes, whether they're Keto Chow or Element or whatever. People will argue about the brands, but get some good electrolytes. Another thing you can do is, if you're not exercising at all, baseline stuff. And I don't mean go get a gym membership. I advocate gym memberships or having a home gym. But just to start, go for a walk more than you do every day. Get to whatever is generally considered a baseline amount of human movement per day. Okay? You'll be surprised what that can do for your metabolic health and for weight loss. If you're having trouble because of the advice you're following, I would stop, and I've said this many times on this channel, stop getting advice from Facebook groups. There are people in there who will sabotage your progress. There are people there who will tell you, well, it's not a religion. You don't need to follow all the strict rules. Well, if you go fast and loose with carnivore or with keto or anything else, like any other health regimen, you're going to have negative results. It just is, or you're not going to at least have the optimum results. At least not most people. Some people can do having all the cheese they want on a carnivore diet and still have the weight melt off. And if you are one of those people, God bless you for it. I'm happy for you. It's not for me, though. It's not how it works for me. And I've seen a lot of sorrow on social media from people who say they're following a strict carnivore diet and it's not working for them. So I would check out from the social media groups. Listen to the advice really when it comes to the really fine-tuning advice of a respected carnivore coach. They can be found. You may have to pay some money for them. Some of them have YouTube channels where they give you advice. Maybe throw them a super chat or something on a live stream and they will help you with some, on-the-spot advice on how to fix things. But in general, if you're getting the kind of bad advice and the advice isn't get stricter than you are, then you might be having problems. There's other ways, of course, of going through weight loss barriers, of course. But also if you're having emotional, headspace problems, it's spring now. Go out and get out some sun. That sounds so rudimentary, but it's amazing what it will do for your mental health. Going out and getting some sun, moving around, spending less time indoors, putting down the mobile devices, spending less time on those things will all make you feel a lot better. And it could be that a lot of the external political things going on right now, all this international stuff where it looks like we had some really bad times on the international scene, that stuff could also be bringing you down and making it hard for you to be successful because stress eating is real and sometimes you do it without realizing it. And it could be you hit the wall like I do because my metabolism is so wrecked that if I am not super strict and super restrictive on what I eat, on how much I eat and what I eat, I don't get the results I need. I'm still recovering from accidental ingestion of sugar at the beginning of Christmas. Still have a bunch of extra body fat that I didn't have before that because my body doesn't want to lose the weight and it's starting to mess with my head. I get it. I get it more than a lot of people do. And external stressors are causing this to be worse. And I hate to be the guy to tell you to white knuckle your way through things, but white knuckling it sometimes is really the only thing to do. But there are things you can do. Consume less of the stressor media. The media out there that wants you to be stressed out all the time, especially about existential things like politics, okay? Consume less of that. Dial down the dairy you're consuming, up the sodium, and get some variety. I've said it over and over again. This is not some weird ribeye religion. We're not here getting on our knees, praying to the ribeye or Scotch flank or whatever it is you call it in your country that you're watching this in. There are other cuts, and I have seen some carnivores flat out say, and they think the ribeye is overrated in its protein-fat ratio. Do you know, for instance, if you're stressing about cost, you can get probably a better protein-fat ratio for your needs from ground beef. In fact, it's easier to fine-tune with ground beef. And I don't like ground beef in terms of mouthfeel and all this other stuff just because I don't like it. But I've been eating it lately. You can fine-tune things because you can buy a different protein-fat ratio ground beef. It's the one cut of beef where it says this is the fat protein ratio on the package that you can actually trust because that stuff was done by the butcher. As opposed to, what a USDA choice New York strip steak is supposed to have when you could put two side by side from two different animals that are both the same USDA beef rating and look to see with your eyes that they have a different protein fat ratio, different marbling. But don't let this stuff get you down. You may have hit the wall, and if you've hit the wall, you can get through it. I intend to get through it. You can too. And if I can get through it, then you can too. Because I bet you money that you have a better sense of willpower on this stuff and sense of resolve than I do. If you're watching this and you've hit the wall in the past, give some advice in the comments on how people can, get through this and what other sort of things can cause people to hit the wall. Where they will stop achieving their goals, stall out for months at a time, and it's clearly not some phantom healing they're doing, that there's just something wrong with their approach. So let me know in the comments how you dealt with that. Because you might be helping someone else. You may, frankly, be helping save someone's life by keeping them on their diet program or helping them correct whatever it is they're doing wrong. So let me know in the comments. Like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. I'm Anthony Stine, the Practical Carnivore. Thanks for your time today.